And welcome back, everyone, to Who Would Win. Today's Who Would Win comes to us from KH2KG, who asked the question, who wins in a fight? Killer Bean from the Killer Bean video game series versus the Babayaga himself, John Wick. We've done John Wick God knows how many times on the channel, so we don't have to really go in depth with John. We can just, bullet point him. John obviously is the Babayaga. While his past is not truly know. We know the bits and pieces. He was adopted by, I believe, it's the Roscamonia, or I can't pronounce it right, but he was adopted and brought into the family that he was a part of. Where he was trained into the Baba Yaga, ultimately, one of the most feared killers in all of John Wick's universe. John Wick is kind of an unstoppable force in many ways. The man's pain tolerance, durability, resilience is kind of unmatched within his world. He is a crack shot with any weapon he gets a hold of. He's also skilled with a blade. He's a master in hand-to-hand combat. He wears bulletproof armor that is in the form of his jacket. He is resilient and adaptable on the fly. He can use pretty much anything as a weapon. Ultimately, John is just a beast. He's not infallible, after all, he's been injured and nearly killed multiple times. At the end of the fourth movie, it's implied he's dead, but let's be honest, we know he's not dead. In fact, they've even said the idea is John's not dead, the creators. And if you're really watching that last scene at the end of the fourth movie, there are hints to imply that, no, he actually isn't dead. But, yeah, John is just a beast. He really is. He is the Baba Yaga for a reason. Now, Killer Bean is not a game I am intimately familiar with, but that being said, the Killer Bean series, Killer Bean is apparently, you can find it on Steam as well as PS4 or 5. Apparently you can play it on Nintendo's, one of the Nintendos, so there you go. But Jack Bean, also known as Killer Bean, is a former Shadow Bean. Shadow Bean. Evidently in this world you don't have humans, you got beans. Okay. The titular main protagonist of the Killer Bean franchise. His first appearance is in The Killer Bean, has appeared in every installment in the franchise since. He is portrayed by Vega E. Trip in Killer Bean Forever and Killer Bean and in the Killer Bean game, and Jeff Law in other media. And now, in terms of his appearance, it varies, but whatever. He's seen as oftentimes cocky and reckless, he's shown doing things like engraving his name in his own bullet casing and not taking Cappuccino seriously while being interrogated by him. Cappuccino being another operative. He's occasionally cracks jokes and quips. Skill-wise, he's very athletic, flexible, being able to perform flips and jumps with ease. He has a lot of upper body strength and capable of climbing up high places and kicking other beans a few feet away. Along with this, he is very talented when it comes to assassination. He is shown taking out 2 warehouses full of beans in Insurgency, Vegan and Jet Bean, who he even stated was actually a stronger hand-to-hand fighter than him. He has martial arts training and is skilled in it, but not the top in his universe. He says that his martial arts skill wasn't in the same degree as Jet Bean's. Jet Bean also seems to have a very good aim Killer Bean, sorry. Aim along with showing high skill with guns, being able to wipe out a warehouse full of Cappuccino's beans with ease, as well as killing all the elite mercenary beans. He's also very intelligent. He used an explosive can to kill 2 remaining beans by shooting the can and killing Jet Bean by the use of precise calculated geometry. He also has breakdance skills. Now, this fight ultimately comes down to the fact that, or the idea, at least in this world, are the beans the size of beans? Like, is everything happening in this world because he's a coffee bean. He's an anthropomorphic coffee bean. Plot: one night, part of interrogation, Killer Bean 2, party, set the world, anthropomorphic coffee beans. The film, that again, yes, I get the world is anthropomorphic coffee beans, but does that mean that they're just human-sized coffee beans? Or they're literally coffee beans? Like the size of a coffee bean? Because this fight actually greatly depends on both of those factors. Because let's go with the idea that they're human-sized coffee beans. If they are human-sized coffee beans, And yeah, I know the world is technically our world, but really you could just shrink it down into a coffee bean more than anything, to the scale of a coffee bean. If they're human size, then this is actually not going to go in Killer Bean's favor, because being a relative human sized fighter means that John can fight on a more even ground. Now, being a coffee bean does mean his outer skin's probably a bit more durable, but it also means that he's probably more brittle. So even though he probably will take a few more hits than John to his actual body, it's not going to be last very long in terms of how long he can take the shots. Whereas John has to wear body armor more than, say, Killer Bean would theoretically have to, at least within their world. But yes, as a human-sized individual, he's much more in John's wheelhouse to take on. So John has a bigger target to aim at. He's also a crack shot. Depending on what continuity you're really looking at, it's very. What am I trying to say here? Depending on how you view them, it's maybe a toss-up to who is the better shot. Really, I mean, yeah, we saw him use geometry to hit someone, but again, if we're talking about like a quick draw, headshot guaranteed, John is probably the better shot, and he just kind of doesn't stop. Like once he starts going, he does not stop. I'd say John's probably the better when it comes to just overall firearms, and he's constantly wearing body armor. So unless Bean is getting a straight headshot on John, he's not going to get an immediate kill. Whereas John has a wider target here. Add on the fact that John is probably the better hand-to-hand fighter as well. That means all he has to do is get him in a log and just shoot him in the head. So, yeah, if it's a human-sized Bean, don't get me wrong, he'd still be an opponent for John, no doubt about it. He'd still push John a bit, because we've seen multiple times skilled assassins being able to push John to some degree. But if he's actually the size of a coffee bean, John, theoretically, John just has to step on him. But if he's shooting at John, the problem immediately there comes down to the fact that, yeah, he's got the agility advantage, he's got all that, and John almost certainly won't be able to see him even when firing the guns, because all he's going to be hearing is at best little like that, like. And if he's got silencers on those guns, then he's not hearing that at all. But the problem is, now you're scaling. You got to scale the weapons to that too. So instead of an actual gun, because I initially thought maybe he might be like this size compared to John, like maybe the size of like a foot tall. Because if he's like a foot tall, I'll tell you right now, he has the edge over John. Because John's still going to be able to hit him. He's moving around, keeping a small moving target is hard to hit. And he's still got weapons that could hurt John. Because at that point, those guns should still be able to kill John if he hits him in the head. But, yeah, I don't know. I just don't know what the size ratio in this world is compared to John Wick. If I'm going with the idea that it's our world, it's just giant anthropomorphic beings. Because they do say, set in a world of anthropomorphic beings. That is the tagline, at least the movie. But, again, is the world scaled up to human size proportions? Going on the idea it is, I would still probably pick John Wick in the fight. He just has a longer history, and he's taken down far more individuals. He's also among the top in his universe, if not the top. Like, he's right there. Kane is arguably as good as John blind. If he had his sight, he might even be better than John. But, yeah, John is among the top in his world, and that's a world of a lot of skilled killers. Whereas Killer Bean, while he has defeated stronger opponents, isn't the top in his world in any one field, whereas John kind of is. I mean, there are specialists that probably do outrank John in that specific specialty, but there's probably snipers and stuff like that are just better shots than John in that sense. But that's now a lot. That's now think words here. That's now mincing cutting hairs a little bit. So ultimately, well, Bean is a skilled assassin. He does have. He's also cockier too than John. That's the thing. he kind of jokes around, and he's not as he doesn't take things as seriously as John theoretically would. So ultimately, yeah, I would probably go John Wick in this fight. If we're scaling these up to human proportions, I'd go John Wick. This, though, is just my opinion. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.